Joining us now, Senate Foreign Relations member. He is Senator Bill Hagerty, and former U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel and Special Forces Flight Surgeon Dr. Amar Hamada, both back with us. First to you, Senator. This latest outrage, the Secretary of State called on the Taliban to stop blocking charter flights with rescued Americans and allies from leaving Afghanistan. They were downplaying this as an issue just days before. Your reaction?
Liz, this is so frustrating. What's happened in Afghanistan is we've created a cauldron of terror there. Now the Taliban control the city. Now the Taliban control the state. Everything there is going to be run through the Taliban, and Antony Blinken needs to acknowledge that. You know, we've pledged to get every last American out, and we need to do everything in our power to do that. Yet what's happened is we've handed control over to a terrorist organization. You know, they're fulfilling their plan to put in place their own government. Again, they've targeted the same date, 9/11, that Joe Biden had targeted so he could celebrate the 20th anniversary of 9/11. But with very different results. Now we've got an armed Taliban much more dangerous than ever before. We're in a worse position than we were 20 years ago, and we've got to address this now.
All right, to the Senator's point, Doctor, Secretary of State Blinken appears to be downplaying the issue of terrorists in the Taliban government. He's calling them people with, quote, very challenging track records. They are jihadis. They're on a generational fight with the U.S. and the Western values around the world. They are in it for the long game. Does this rhetoric feel like it's deeply unserious? I just want to also quote back to you, Doctor. NSA Sullivan was asked on MSNBC, are they the enemy? And the NSA Sullivan said, well, it's hard to put a label on it. Your reaction?
Liz, this is so infuriating, and it's pure lunacy from this administration. I can't believe that we are where we are at the 20th anniversary of 9/11, after everything that we've been through. To make the Taliban our partners and our allies is ludicrous. Of course, we're not going to be able to vet people on the ground there, but we know that there are hundreds of Americans trapped that we have abandoned there and that this administration has left there and prevented from leaving. We need to get them out of the country. We can vet them when they land, and if they're not appropriate, then we send them right back. But we don't need to waste any more time and just drag our feet and risk their lives and put them in mortal danger by just making excuses and waiting.
Yeah, what the doctor was just saying, it feels like deeply unserious rhetoric, Senator. It feels like we're back in 1998 when the Clinton administration was warned about this. Remember, 1993, the World Trade Center attack was a warm-up act to 2001. We have no personnel on the ground, no air assets in the country. The State Department conceded that, yes, they need the Taliban's authorization to let Americans go. Watch this.
Without personnel on the ground, we can't verify the accuracy of manifests, the identities of passengers, flight plans, or aviation security protocols. So this is a challenge.
A challenge? Seriously? Why didn't they understand that ahead of time, Senator, when everyone else in the country did? Now he says this after they pulled out troops first? Did they think it would be like working with the DMV of Afghanistan to rescue U.S. citizens? There's no paperwork there. Our citizens and allies have been left behind terror lines. Your reaction, Senator?
My reaction is exactly what I heard from our allies over in the UK and in Brussels this past weekend when I was there meeting with our allies. Talking to them about their frustration over the situation. They emphasized to me that what's happened here is that we've allowed the calendar to drive our decisions rather than the conditions on the ground. We should have never evacuated our military before we had our American citizens out. What we've had now is loss of American lives. We may be looking at the biggest hostage crisis in modern history. And we've had now a diminishment of America's reputation across the world.
But, you know, to the Senator's point, experts warn Afghanistan is an even bigger hub for terror than before 9/11. And, Doctor, now you see China moving to occupy Bagram Air Base, which the administration surrendered. China wants to use Bagram Air Base as a hub for its big Belt and Road initiative to take over the world's infrastructure. Pakistan reportedly helping China here. Your reaction, Doctor?
That's no surprise at all, Liz. I mean, one reason that we were over there and in several countries like Uzbekistan and Tajikistan was to establish a footprint to help check China as China grew and got more aggressive. The fact that we've given all those up, every single air base there, back to those native countries as well as now China, as well as several $1 billion in U.S. armaments and top military secrets is unbelievable. And I can't believe that our military strategists approved this kind of plan.
You know, Senator, Americans don't feel safe. Polls show that. that. They find the rhetoric deeply unserious. For Nancy Pelosi to call this, and the president to call this, an extraordinary success of what happened in Afghanistan. But Senator, now, is this true? Democrats are blocking Republican demands for investigations into Afghanistan. We're talking Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush, and Ayanna Pressley. Is that true?
You know, I've heard the same reports. I've yet to verify them, but it doesn't surprise me at all, Liz. They don't want to investigate this because it's going to be enormously embarrassing to the Biden administration. I mean, what we will find out is that they've allowed domestic politics, they've put press releases ahead of conditions on the ground, and what they've really driven for is yet another messaging opportunity. You know, Joe Biden wanted to celebrate the fact that on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, he was the president that brought American troops home. Well, instead, he's precipitated a disaster of incredible proportion. Not only has he left Americans behind enemy lines, he's left our allies behind enemy lines too. He's made it much more difficult for us to gain the confidence of our allies, and now he's put China in prime position, as you mentioned. You know, when we controlled Bagram, we were a thorn in the CCP's side. Now, Bagram is going to become a crown jewel in their Belt and Road Initiative.
The senator is making a good point here, Doctor. Let's listen also to Representative Mike Gallagher agreeing with what the senator is saying. Watch this.
Surrendering Bagram and pulling out military assets before we had gotten every American citizen out of the country will go down as one of the worst foreign policy mistakes in the history of United States foreign policy. And so this president, to add insult to injury, has been lying to the American people for 2 weeks. He said al-Qaeda has been decimated in Afghanistan. Not true. He said our allies didn't have concerns with the way in which this has been conducted. Not true. He said Americans weren't having trouble getting to the airport. Well, obviously, we just left hundreds, if not thousands of them behind. So that was a massive lie.
Doctor, your reaction?
These past 2 weeks' decisions from the president and this administration has irreparably damaged the United States, not just in reputation, and demolished the trust that other countries have for us, and abandoned our allies and other American lives on the ground there, but it has actually emboldened and empowered every single enemy of the United States of America for years to come. I don't know how we fix this.
Yeah, again, the jihadis are in a long game. It sounds like our sound bites are for short political purposes, and the American people see through that and they feel very unsafe. All right, Senator Bill Hagerty, Lieutenant Colonel Omar Hamada, thank you so much for your service to our country. It's good to have you both on. Up next, Congressman Michael Byrd.